Okay, so delighted to have a good pal, Julie Diver of 39 Steps here, and we're going to be talking about all things 39 Steps and brand, and maybe a little bit of coaching as well, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
Now, the one thing you might not know, Julie, because I'd had a quick look at this, do you know how long we've known each other?
Longer than I probably care to mention.
So actually, I look back, November 15 was when we started working together.
Okay.
You were my 13th client.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that.
Unlucky for some.
Unlucky, but very lucky to have met with you. So yeah, let's kind of have a good conversation. I know It will be. But before we get into it, we're actually just not long back from BizX,
Yep.
which of course is the kind of signature event that we have every year at Action Coach. So go on then, give me your reflections on BizX.
Yeah, BizX is a bit of a staple in our calendar, really. That's the 6th year I've been. Liverpool was a great venue, and we had some decent speakers this year, as we always do. So some highlights would have to be Donald Miller of Story Brand, total legend. Met him at the end.
Did you?
Right. Fangirling with my signed book and all that. He was great. Just very succinct, very clear. Delivery was brilliant. I really enjoyed Jamil Qureshi, the psychologist guy.
Psychologist and high performance coach.
Yes, to loads of gems from him. So he's a bit of a standout one as well. And just generally being inspired by different stories and things. So Dame Kelly Holmes and Deborah Mead, and she had some great things to say as well. So yeah, all good. You come back buzzing, it's dead intense.
Yeah.
And the challenge is then actually to action some of the really good stuff that you learn and things like that. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. People, I can't remember the phrase, I'll probably butcher it anyway, but it's this idea of that, we've got enough information, the focus should really be on implementation. And that's always the challenge. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So no, good stuff. Right, well look, let's get into the discussion then. So first of all, for anyone who's watching this, just tell us a little bit about kind of who 39 Steps is, and well, who you are and what 39 Steps is.
Yeah, sure. So I set up 39 Steps in 2003, and we're a creative agency. And effectively what we do is we help people to rediscover what makes them and their businesses special. And we do that through a variety of ways, but ultimately it results in strong messaging, a clear idea on who their target market is, and all the material they might need in order to tell the world how fabulous they are. So that it might be rebrand, branded toolkits, websites, marketing campaigns, all of that. So yeah,
all right.
It's great fun and I love it.
Okay, and why 39 Steps? Where did that name come from?
So we set up back in 2003, and it was a bit of a trend at the time for agencies to call themselves something to do with where they were. So we had set up just on Flesh Market Close, which is just up from Waverley Station, if you know it. And it's just a set of steps taking you from Market Street up to Coburn Street. And there's the name of the book and the film is the 39 Steps. And in the scene in there is that where people are, the main characters are actually running through Waverley Station. And from our seedy little tenement studio bedroom place, our first place, you could hear every single tannoy announcement. And in the festival, it was a bit bonkers because it was really, really noisy. But we came up with 39 Steps because it's Scottish based. And then about 2 weeks later, I bothered to count the steps up to the office, and actually there were 39.
Bizarre.
Spooky. Yeah.
Brilliant.
It stuck, so people remember it, which is quite nice.
So so you've been in business for quite a long time then.
Yeah.
All right. So again, quite a lot maybe to kind of cover during this conversation. So could you go a little bit more into the kind of what it is that you do and who is it you're actually serving then? What's the typical client that you've got? Okay,
so the client base has shifted over the time. So we tend to work best with very established companies, and tends to be either the business owner or within senior marketing teams within larger organisations. And it's more an attitudinal thing where we find that there's a good fit rather than specifically sectors, although we tend to work with B2B organisations rather than people who are in retail.
Yeah.
And what we do effectively is they might come to us because they've identified one marketing issue, and that could be that they're not getting the right kind of leads and that kind of thing. So, or perhaps their website looks really out of date or something. So they will initially come to us to say, right, can you redo our site? Or can you help us with SEO? And what tends to happen is you have that initial conversation with them and realise that actually that's not the primary problem that they might have, the challenge that they might have. You uncover a lot of other things that are much more important to deal with before you get anywhere near rehashing a site and doing it there. So, and that's quite an exciting time, and it can be quite daunting for prospects because they might not have considered that they have a challenge somewhere else, or it's been buried quite deeply underneath other strategic objectives, and they've not realised that actually it's more important to figure out their position in the marketplace first.
So what's that like then when their eyes are opened to the real situation, and it's almost, they end up kind of getting something or going somewhere that they didn't expect to go? I mean, what does that all look like?
Well, if I take a client we went to see yesterday as an example, we've already had a conversation with them. They're quite a sizable organisation for us to be working with. We've got a team of around about 300, for example. And they were, when we first said to them, actually, I don't think it's a marketing leads issue that you've got here. It's more of a team engagement one. And there's a complicated, confusing message you have right now going out to the marketplace. So rather than try and get you more leads that are probably going to be not the right kind because they're coming to a website that isn't on brand, is confusing messaging, etc. Let's address that side first. Actually, what is it you stand for, and get under the nuts and bolts of that. And they were really enthused about that. So in effect, what's happened there is we're getting involved with the head of HR, the head of business development, their marketing team, and the CEO, to get them around the table and actually go, right, this is now the time is ripe for a bit of change.
Okay, so and that's interesting. So did all this happen in the first meeting then, or have you been building up to this level of understanding?
Well, it was a simple form on our website that the marketing girl had filled in, and she actually knew of us from years and years ago from a previous company. Although we hadn't worked with her directly, our name was kind of in the back of her mind, and so she's now at this new organisation for her, and had just filled in the form, and the initial inquiry was, we need more leads, can you help us with SEO and PPC and all that kind of thing. Now, we do that sort of thing, but only for clients that we've worked with for a long time. It's not something that we would do as a standalone. And I could easily have probably ignored that, but then I thought, actually, there's no harm in having a conversation. I always try and have a conversation with any inquiry that comes in. And in this case, it's actually been particularly fortuitous because actually, although she came in for one area, addressing a problem with the number of customers coming through their doors, actually the challenge is much deeper than that, and we helped her to see that, and also then support her in providing documentation to her senior team in order for them to be convinced as well. And actually it didn't take an awful lot of convincing, because we were telling them as a third party something that they probably already knew, but hadn't probably had the wherewithal to sort of address it head on. So yesterday we went in to see them in person, had a very candid, lovely conversation with them, and resulting in what's the next steps for that project. So yeah, it's exciting times for them, and we can see the opportunity they have. So the team there are very, very responsive to movement and change. So we love that.
Well, yeah, I was going to ask you, what's the bit of what the work you do that really gets you excited then?
When you see the light bulbs go off in people's eyes and they go, that's what we're about. That's what we've been trying to say about ourselves for 5-10 years, but we've never managed to encapsulate it.
Yeah.
And seeing people get excited again,
Right.
because it's depending on how long you've been in an organisation, whether you're the owner of it or you've been working within something for some time, you can see a sort of sense of tiredness and sort of, it's the same old. And you don't want change for change's sake. But if there's certain things are happening in a marketplace, whatever, it's really helpful to invigorate that again with something. And it could be that it does warrant rebranding. It doesn't all the time. Or just to kind of inject a little bit of enthusiasm back in. And in this particular case, that's definitely what's needed. So I'm excited to see how we can help them.
And when you talk about team engagement, it would be easy to make the assumption that, okay, if you guys are brand people, team engagement's a kind of a people kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So go on, join the dots there.
So what people think of like branding agencies or creative agencies, it's all about the pretty pictures and the colours and all that sort of jazz. And there's definitely a bit of that. But the bit that gets me out of bed in the morning is being able to help a business owner or senior management team identify what makes them tick, rediscover what makes them special, and then get excited about explaining that to the rest of the team, because then that team actually gets on board as well. And the ones that are not on board can just, they get off the bus at some point, and the others are then actually acting as ambassadors for that business again. Because fundamentally, you've got three audiences really in any business or organisation. You've got the people that work there, you've got your customers, and then you've got the kind of wider associates and suppliers and ambassadors that are out with the business. But the easiest way, or the quickest way to kind of build up momentum again and maybe bring in the right kind of leads and also the right kind of talent, if you're in a recruitment issue, is to make sure that your people are enthused. So it could be something as simple as listening to them as to what uniform they're wearing. Do they actually like it? Is it on brand? Do they really believe in what they stand for? Can they recite values that they actually think mean something? That kind of thing. And we love helping a business get to that point.
And when you first started out then, did you expect to be kind of getting into those kind of discussions?
No, probably not really. But I think it's over time when you're speaking to so many business people, and fellow business owners. You think, right, this is a common thread, a common issue that people have, and it's the trigger is always, we need more business in, and that's fine. But actually, what is the experience when the customer or client is in that organisation? So this is the sort of thing that we research as well. So as part of our consultancy bit at the beginning, we have a framework that we've called Market Street, which we've had now for 6 or 7 years. And that involves us speaking to the key people within an organisation, a company. So maybe it's the board of directors, and then it's the receptionist, and then it's kind of heads of department or whatever. Finding out what they actually really think about the business that they're in. And then we speak to some key clients, and fundamentally they need to be people that the company, the people within our client, respects and admires the opinion of. So the clients that they might give us to speak to, and it's all anonymous, can be somebody that they've maybe had a challenge or a problem with, but then how has that been resolved and that kind of thing. And what we're looking for there is a common thread and a pattern of what makes that business then tick. And then from that, we can extract what actually makes that company special. And it could be something they don't even realise. And that helps them to be different. And so then our job is to make that look great across all the material, make the messaging right, and help that board of directors to engage the rest of their team and make them all believe in it.
So tell me this, and this is out of curiosity. So where does your bit stop and some other people start? So for example, things like net promoter score. You're talking about going out to the clients of the customer to get their feedback. So in your experience, do these clients of yours, do they engage in getting NPS and even team engagement, employee engagement type scores as well?
So some of them do,
Right.
some of them don't. So some organisations will have got client surveys in that they can then give us as a kick-off, and then we'll go, great, okay, but actually there's some key questions perhaps that haven't been asked here that would be useful to get answers on. Some of them have never done it before, and it's very brave to go and ask your clients what they actually think of you.
And is that what you encourage them to do?
Or we do it.
Or you do,
We do it and come back with some true insights and things that they find useful. So even if that's the only exercise they go through with us, it will be valuable because we'll be presenting back actual substance of what will help them improve parts of their business. And so we've had people having to give team members pay rises because they've not realised that particular individuals are actually absolutely outstanding within our organisation until we got that out from clients. And we've also then uncovered, cans of worms that perhaps were being brushed under the carpet by business owners, and then they're realising that actually, okay, this is something we have to deal with, otherwise it's going to come back to bite us. So that exercise is really valuable. And for us then as a creative team, it's brilliant because we've got then a basis of knowing what our creative briefs are going to be, have a much better understanding from the off as to who the right types of clients are for our client. So when it comes to creating material or user journeys on the website and all that kind of stuff, we already have a very, very good grounding in what will work for our client.
And so what, again, you don't have to name kind of specifics, but actually, what are some of the real results that you've managed to kind of achieve with clients? I mean, what are the highlights that you could...
Okay, so a recent one I can think of is it's not so much a company branding, although we are working with this company on this at the moment. But it was actually coming up with a health and safety campaign for their factories. And this organisation, they've got hundreds of people that work for them. They've got branches all over the place, but they have a real problem with people getting on board with health and safety and not seeing it as just yet another management thing that's just come up from on high. So we had come up with a kind of campaign idea, strapline and an identity for it. And the team, the health and safety team, then rolled it out across one branch, and actually it was very well received, and particularly for the people who had been in that organisation for, say, 20, 30 years, who had seen a lot of change. So that was nice. And, health and safety might not be the sexiest thing in the world, but, it's about engaging with people and finding an emotion that's going to connect with enough people. So that was good. Other examples would be we made somebody cry in a good way when we were able to articulate for her what the brand essence is behind their organisation. And they'd been there for, say, 10 years, and they were like, this is exactly what we stand for, this is great. And we've then subsequently created a really nice looking toolkit for their team, so that logo suite and templates and all manner of stuff, which will allow them to actually create things and empower them to create things consistently and easily. They don't need to keep coming back to us or anything, because we want people to feel confident about the material they're putting out there. And ultimately, it's actually about pride. So making business owners, organisational managers, and the people who work for these places proud to be where they are.
It's interesting the way you said that about brand essence. And you said in the same sentence there about brand essence and stuff. And I think, a lot of people, and this would be my experience, and I'm sure yours too, whereby people get they think about the stuff without then thinking, well, wait a minute, let's go further back to find out what's the brand, as you say, brand essence and pride. So I think that's a hugely important thing to do to add value to people, because you can get busy doing stuff that might just be rubbish.
Yeah, I mean, and it's very easy to go to the output thing. Oh, I need a website, or I need a brochure, or I need logo files or whatever. And it's like, okay, that's fine. Why do you need it? Who is it for? And what's it going to say? You know, where does that fit in terms of your objectives? So, and if none of that is particularly clear, then our job is to go back to that beginning piece and then help people to figure that out first.
Do you know, it's interesting, we mentioned BizX just at the start there, but I don't know if you can also remember Piers Linney from Dragon's Den. And he talked about, didn't he, the value pyramid and the importance of, well, AI and how that was just something that's absolutely coming at us, and it's like get on board with it or be left behind. But what the point that I'm hearing kind of through what you've said there is, you know, he said automate the mundane. There's quite a lot, you know, and move up the value pyramid. And it's, you know, at the moment it feels like a hard thing to think that AI will be able to really get to the essence and what that really means. You know, the websites and stuff can be made.
Oh, well, this is it. So that all of that is, you know, is becoming easier and easier for people to do all themselves, you know, creating sites, and you've got ChatGPT to write things and whatever. But that's fine. There's great tools out there, and it's about using the tools properly. So that's where the sort of consultancy / agency side of things is interesting. So we much prefer to be in that sort of more consultative piece. And the fact is that my agency can then create those tools out of it and create really damn fine looking ones as well. You know, fantastic things. But it's a bit, you don't want it to be a bit fur coat and knee knickers, essentially, right? So, you know, a site that looks fantastic and a brand logo that looks all great, whatever, but it's actually not based on anything, and it's just looks nice, but the content, for example, on a site is just nonsense, or there's you have no real toolkit and templates and things that a proper team can practically use to create their presentations or documents, bid documents, proposals, whatever it is that they're needing to do. So it needs to be practical and useful, and actually reflect that business correctly and well.
So tell me this, and what about your influences to your approach then? What have you found over the 20 odd years, it seems, for you? What have been the big things that have molded your approach?
Having met so many diverse types of business owners has been really useful, because you then understand better the commonality between many, and also what people need to hear. It's regardless of the sector that they're in. So it's helped me to sort of be a bit more specific about certain parts of what we can offer as a service, but it shall actually apply to so many different people. I think it's meeting a whole range of different folks. And then we've got kind of frameworks and things that we tend to use. So one that I'm particularly keen on is the Story Brand Framework by Donald Miller. That's really very useful. And it is a formula to a point, and it's about then applying that in the correct way to help a company tell their story well. And then there's other things like 5 ways frameworks and things like that Action Coach gives us. And I guess things like a mindset.
But go back to Donald Miller, if I may, because he obviously spoke at BizX, and so as you say, he laid out a pathway of how to tell the story for a brand, and I guess from my perspective, what that gave was, you know, branding and marketing can be a little bit like, how on earth does this work? But this laid out a nice, as you say, framework. So how kind of much has that influenced how you go about your work?
Well, I think what's interesting is that in a sort of funny way, we've been doing this for some time without knowing about this framework. And then when I first was then alerted to it, and I read it, I was like, this is this is what it is. This is what I've been kind of doing without sort of knowing it.
Yeah.
And then realizing that, this makes it so much simpler to be using something like this and explaining it to people in this way rather than this in a kind of slightly jumbled Julie's ever way that I had been doing up to now. So,
And the other one, there's Donald Miller. I know that you're a particular fan of someone else as well.
Yeah. So Marcus Sheridan, the Ask You Answer.
Right. So what is it about that angle?
The simplification of it, really. So marketing does not need to be complicated. And Marcus Sheridan's The Ask You Answer has made that so straightforward to understand. So essentially, the methodology there is if a prospect client or somebody is interested in something you might offer, they're asking a question, answer the question. I mean, it couldn't really be simpler than that. And so, when we speak to clients about how we can structure strategies and things for them for the marketing, we tend to cite these two books all the time, the Story Brand book and the Ask You Answer. And in my opinion, if you read nothing else on marketing, these two are the key ones that you need.
Yeah. No, I would agree.
Yep.
I would agree. In fact, a little story for you. So obviously, you know that I kind of really have embraced video. So in 27, a wee bit. But in 2017, Marcus Sheridan came over to Edinburgh, and I was at a hotel, the Holyrood Hotel down on off the Royal Mile, and there was 14 of us, I think, in the room.
Right.
And he basically said, look, in 2 years' time, 80% of content online will be consumed via video. And his rallying cry was, so get started now, and don't wait until then. And that totally made sense, because at the time I was using YouTube an awful lot, and I thought, and I think that was it. That was the start for me. And sometimes you just need someone to say something, says, that makes sense, I'm going to do that. And so I found him in particular to be really influential to how I've gone about things. So I like it when people kind of can lock into kind of particular kind of authors or speakers.
No, he's really good, and he's gone through that experience himself, and that's what was his little light bulb moment, which has now created a whole movement effectively in marketing across the world, which is pretty impressive. So and you do it well, Alan.
So,
video.
I'll tell you what, I'm getting better. I think if you look back to the early days, it was horrible. It was just embarrassingly bad. So no, I like doing this kind of stuff. This is quite nice to do this. All right, cool. And so, what else then? Where's 39 Steps going? What's the longer term for you?
Okay, so I think I kind of know. So we're working much more on that whole side of the consultancy part. We're being actively going into organisations and helping them look at their brand positioning in the marketplace, and just that whole rediscovering piece of what makes them special. And then actually getting quite involved with teams as well. So we'd already, and have done for some time, run various workshops and things, and that's brilliant for getting people engaged. And I love a Post-it note and a Sharpie me. So we help people with that. I think that's just going to evolve a lot more. And just this, I suppose, the size and range of clients that we deal with as well, is just getting really quite interesting. And we're a really quite a small team, and I'm happy with that being the case, and we have been larger before. And actually, it provides us with a bit of agility, and we just bring in different people for different areas where we need it, and that's working really quite well.
And going back to something you said earlier as well, Julie, you said that it was less, your market was less sector specific. You were B2B, but it was more attitudinal. What did you mean by that then?
Well, I speak to every single inquiry that comes in, and you can tell quite quickly if they're quite price driven, or what the factors are. It might be for somebody. Is it price? Are they getting pressure from on high in order to just get quotes in, for example? Or is there an appetite for some real change, or what has happened in that business where it's kind of instigated the conversation in the first place? So my first question, or one of my first questions, tends to be, so why this and why now? And that yields quite an interesting result, and it's very important for us to know what that is. And yeah, you can kind of gauge by the language somebody's using as to whether they're really wanting to get on board with something or not. And in the case, as I was saying about this organisation I was speaking to, who got in touch with us about SEO and PPC, while that isn't something that's an initial thing of what we help businesses with, I thought, it's definitely worth having that conversation to unearth what is actually the challenge here, because even if we can't help them, we'll know somebody who can. So, and I like that idea of, if, okay, maybe it's not us, but here, go off somewhere else. And equally, and it doesn't happen that often, if you are having a conversation with somebody and you think this is not going to work, that's really helpful too. Because I want us to be working with people that we like, that we can get on with, because it makes business and your working day a lot more fun. Yeah, I'm not in it to help people make money that I just think are not intrinsically decent folk.
Okay, and Julie, just out of interest, you mentioned just earlier there about mindset as well.
Yeah.
Go on, just give me why did you raise that word?
Because I think mindset is really powerful, and I think people have become more aware of it over the past, I would say maybe 10 years or so. So when I first started out, I mean, I remember, I think people like life coaches and stuff were 10 a penny, and there were some terrible ones, and then some really good people who were life coaches. And then over time, we've been involved with lots of different kind of coaching type of elements, and well, obviously yourself, been brilliant. And that's helped me to understand better that actually, in order to be a better business person or general human, is to understand better how my mind works. And we've had some real ups and downs over the past few years that's challenged that. And I've come to appreciate much better the power of mindset and how important it is to keep that health, keep your head healthy, really.
Yeah.
And everything else will eventually fall into place where it needs to be.
Nice. It's interesting, you raised the word, because actually I'm looking just now, it's 3 minutes to 12 on Friday. Now actually, Freya, my daughter, who you know, will be finishing her maths in 3 minutes.
All right, okay.
Now, if I were to tell you that yesterday, up in her room, I said, how are you feeling about tomorrow? What would you score it out of 10, confidence-wise? She said 8.5 out of 10. So that's good.
Yeah.
I said, just out of interest, what would you have scored it back in November? Because remember, November is when she got a test result, and that's when we got a tutor.
Right.
She said 1.
Right. Oh.
Right. Okay. 1 out of 10. But for me, what was really pleasing is just this idea of she's leaned in, got extra support, and then practiced. Yeah. And she actually is quite excited about the exam today. Now, I'm crossing my fingers open. But the point is that it goes back to this mindset, the growth mindset, which is, classic is, she wasn't back then, I'm not good at maths.
Yeah.
Could have been one mindset, or the ... yet.
Yeah.
And I think, hopefully in a few months' time we'll find out what the result is. But certainly my expectation is that she's going to do a lot better today than certainly what she would have thought she would have got back in November. So I would agree. Mindset's everything.
And I think actually, like, you being a parent and realising how your own mindset affects how your children, you interact with your children, whatever, that's been a big game changer. Realising that how I talk about myself or talk about situations or whatever has an effect on how the kids then absorb that and think, right, okay, we've got to be a better human for them, really.
So, you said, you mentioned the kids there. What did you tell me just earlier on before we kind of sat down here? You said you got the kids to recite what?
All right, so we've got various Alan sayings all around the house, but one of them is the above the line, above and below the line, and which is in our bathroom, and written in my handwriting actually.
Yeah.
And
there are many, by the way, many of those pictures around Edinburgh and the Lothians, drawn by you.
So I can't remember what this instigated the conversation, but we were just around eating breakfast this morning. I was like, yeah, so you remember what's above and below the line? And each of them could recite it off. And I thought, yes, mum goals there.
Go on, and for those people who have never come across it, what are they?
So above the line and is a kind of a mechanism, I guess, for figuring out what your attitude is to something. And people who play above the line are showing ownership, accountability and responsibility for the situations and things that they're in. And people who play below the line are, they convey blame, excuses and denial.
Excellent, look at that.
Yeah.
What a student.
I know.
Excellent.
Good teacher though, Alan.
Excellent. Hey, listen, let's kind of wrap it up then. Can I, if I were to ask you to sum up, if you were to describe to someone, what has your coaching journey been like? Because some people are like, what the hell's this all about anyway? What would you say?
I think coaching is an invaluable asset to have in your business. You find the right person who can actually bring out the best in you. And over 20 years, we've had various different, I've personally worked with various different coaches, but you've obviously been the longest standing and by far the best. And I think it's because a coach can actually help unearth the bits that you already know are inside you, but in the best way. So a coach is not a teacher, they're not a mentor, they're kind of helping you to be the best version of what it is, of yourself. And whatever objective you have, a coach will be able to support and act as that kind of sounding board. So yeah, that's kind of actually what I said to my kids this morning. Yeah, so.
Nice.
Yes. I think, if it's good enough for you, Usain Bolt and Dame Kelly Holmes and all these other really very successful people in whatever field that they're in, then, why wouldn't you? If you want to be really successful in business and life in general, why wouldn't you have a coach?
Nice words. Well, thank you for bringing your very best to this chat, Julie. All right.
You're welcome, Alan.
Well done. That was brilliant. Thank you.